Hello and welcome to the Car Care Reviews channel, and welcome to the 2025 Volkswagen Golf GTI. In today's video, we're going to do a proper technical review under the hood, take a look underneath it, inside and out, some things we like, some things we do not like, right after this. Let's start our technical review under the hood. And in the GTI in 2025, we have a 2-liter EA888 Evo 4. So there's a fourth generation in this engine. Let's dive into some of its mechanical construction. At the very top, you have an aluminum valve cover. And the reason for that is the cam caps are built into it. So it doesn't have a gasket, it has sealer. Pull it out, the cams will just be standing. That's the design for this one. Single piece cylinder head with hydraulic lifters and roller rockers. You do have two timing chains on this engine. One is the main one from the cams to the crank, one for the oil pump and the balance shaft. This engine does have dual overhead cam with dual variable valve timing with variable valve lift on the exhaust. But because of that, the PCB system is pretty interesting. It routes through the cylinder head and goes through the balance shaft. So a little bit of an interesting design. The block is a cast iron block, and that's a pretty interesting thing in 2025. And the interesting thing about it is, so it has individual main caps, but the upper pan kind of bolts onto the caps to give them more rigidity. So you kind of have both. You have individual and together as a cradle. It's a pretty interesting design there. Let's talk about some of the interesting features of this engine. So the exhaust manifold is built into the cylinder head, kind of maximize cooling and make things more compact. The oil piston jets are on demand. They're actually controlled by the computer, so they can come on and off based on demand. This engine is turbocharged. You have a turbocharger sitting in the back, and I wish it was in the front, but you do have a little bit of room around in this particular car. It is oil and coolant cooled. It does have electronic wastegate, and it does have air-to-air intercooler all the way in the front. Surprisingly behind the condenser. Usually they put it all the way in the front. This one is behind the condenser, so through the grill you see the condenser, you kind of see the intercooler through it, but that's how they did it. This engine is direct injected only, so you have a high pressure fuel pump at the top here, a little bit to the side, not exactly on the valve cover, and you do have the direct injectors underneath the intake manifold. Now the cooling system in this engine, it does have a coolant distribution valve, but the water pump is does not have a belt driven water pump per se, not the accessory belt that is outside. So the water pump lives underneath the intake manifold, and it does have a tiny little belt. It drives it off of a gear that sticks out of the cam. No idea why that is the case. This is how it's always been with this engine. This engine's been around for a long time. This is the fourth generation of it. Here's my take on this engine. This engine has been around for a very long time, folks. This is the fourth generation of it. At this point, the enthusiasts of this car and kind of Volkswagen enthusiasts in general are so familiar with this engine. This is a familiar engine. When you look at it, it looks like a complicated mess, but it's not, because the thing has a cast iron block. Original versions that did have oil consumption issues later on, around the third generation and up, seems to have resolved, but good maintenance of this engine is a good idea. Like that cast iron block, but there's a lot of plastic around it. That's all I'm going to tell you. For example, the front timing cover, this is one of the interesting deals. So you have a top timing cover and a bottom timing cover. The top one is plastic. That's just how they did it, but that one you could remove it and replace the gasket behind it. The lower one, which is steel, that one, because it's so flimsy, when you remove it, it gets damaged. So every time you remove it, you have to replace it. One-time use. So might as well put a plastic one there. Same thing. A lot of plastic around, and my favorite thing about this is, I mean, half this car is put together with clips and you know, retainers and whatnot, but the air filter has multiple Torx bolts all around it, just holding an air filter. Don't know why they do things like that, but they do. But at this point, this engine is so familiar with everyone that is into Volkswagen that it's almost like this was such a groundbreaking design of this engine when it came out that it's still emission compliant and it's still relevant, and it makes a lot of power, and it's just... Let's talk about the transmission, because in 2025 we have some changes. We don't have a manual transmission anymore in the US, and that is kind of a strange move for a car like this, because This is a car you want the manual transmission in. But the only option you're left with in the US is a 7-speed DSG transmission. Direct shift gear, something like that. Basically, translation is dual clutch. But the problem is, usually, dual clutch transmissions are great for like racing applications and track use, and they're super fast. And it's basically, when you're in first gear, second gear is already engaged. It's going to switch shafts, and there we go. So it's very quick to shift. However, in this one, if you drive it normally, it's so laggy, and just you're stopped in stop and go traffic and you let go of the gas, you immediately feel like the car just lurches forward, it just shakes. Because basically what this transmission is a manual transmission that's automatically shifted. So in a manual transmission, you have to do your balance to take off so the car wouldn't shut off. This does that for you, but it's so clunky. That's the concern. And when you drive it slow, the shifts are so mellow and strange, and just feels like this is a transmission meant for track use, not really for daily driving. Yet the whole purpose of this car is it's a car you can take on the track but drive it on a daily basis. It puts a giant smile. This transmission, not a good one for daily driving. Great on a track, but are you going to buy this and drive it on a track every single day and then park it in your garage? Don't think so. They have the Golf R for that. I don't feel like it's a good choice of transmission for this car, and the lack of a manual transmission kind of leaves you with the one that is not great. That's what I'm going to say about it. Let's take a look underneath 2025 Golf GTI. Started at the front. We're actually not completely covered here. This was kind of a surprise to me, even. A little bit of cover, but everything else is wide open. Good and bad. Good makes service simpler. Bad, a little bit exposed to the elements. We are greeted by a steel oil pan. Love that. Some Volkswagen engines are starting to go with plastic stuff, and it's just not a good idea. This is really nice. Of course, oil level sensor, very easily accessible, which is nice. This is the DSG transmission. It's pretty, yeah, it has a front pan right here. And then this little contraption is the ELSD for the front. It's pretty cool how it almost looks like a transfer case, but of course this is front wheel drive. Then you have this aluminum subframe that's just kind of sitting here. There's no, I like this. It's actually pretty open, pretty exposed. You can see the power steering motor right here for electric, not hydraulic, not power steering pump per se, just the motor. Let's look at the front suspension here. So this is what I like about this. Even though this drives amazing, suspension is actually simple. You do have a steel lower control arm with a ball joint that is actually separate from the control arm, which is really nice. Single piston caliper, although it is a pretty big caliper with pretty big pad. You see the pad here is pretty big pad for a car of this size. Aluminum knuckle. You do have a strut at the top where it kind of sleeves into the knuckle. Not my favorite style of service, but it works. Then the sway bar link. It is a steel sway bar link, which is pretty nice. The axle. Pretty bigger axle than usual, what you expect for a car this size, and everything is looking great here. Then we come back here, exhaust. Exhaust quality on this is a much bigger pipe. It's actually really nice, the quality. I really like the quality of the welds and everything. I love this, that they kind of made it into a triangle shape to fit it in this tunnel, not have it stick down. That is pretty cool. The rest of the car, fully covered, almost all the way to the edge. What I like about this is, and this is kind of continuation of the idea of the GTI, look how simple it is to lift. You just have a pinch weld that's wide open. And I love this. You see how this coating, you can even see it on the pinch weld. It's completely coated. I mean, look at this. Look here. It's almost 100% coverage on everything. A little bit of spot here, a little bit here, but you do have wax here. So I wish all manufacturers would do this, because this is really nice. They have everything that is exposed, somewhat of covering on it. Then we look at the rear. This is, to me, this is the best part. Look how simple the suspension is and how well this car drives. You do have a trailing arm, super simple. 2 bolts, 4 bolts here for this bracket. Comes right out. Doesn't take, probably gonna take you more to fight with these plastic clips than taking the thing out. It's very nice. Steel control arm, steel knuckle. This was kind of a surprise to me. In a car like this, you want to save weight. It's a steel knuckle. Everything is steel here. That is very nice. If you come around, you do have a spring, pretty small spring with a shock that is separate. This sway bar is plastic. That's okay, we can live with that. You do have a single piston caliper right here. If you look right here, with the parking motor integrated on it, so you don't have parking brakes electronic on this car. In the back, you have an exhaust. It doesn't have any strange cutoff valves or anything. It's just a muffler, 2 exhaust tips. Very, very nice. We look right here. It is open. However, I like that they extended this a little bit, some protection. Same thing on this side. Because if you see, that is a blind spot monitor sensor. It's very exposed. That's why we like these covered a little bit better. Let's take a look at the outside of the Golf GTI. There's one thing I'd like to say here, which is the most important thing about any Golf GTI. Ever since they came out, such a long time ago, this is the 8th generation right here, Mark 8, they've always looked good. I mean, it is such a good looking car. Not really over-styled or over the top. They're just good. And lately, they've been getting good looking and sophisticated. Let's look at this. I wouldn't mind looking at this every morning. This is a beautiful car. That's one thing. I mean, there isn't a lot going on with the design, but it's classic. It's sophisticated. So you go to the original ones, they had this red striping. Put a picture of it right here. It's just beautiful. I mean, back in that day, this was one of the biggest distinguishing features of it. But today, they still hold true to that. So in 2025, we have some visual changes. We do have a lit Volkswagen logo, which I feel like is a bit much. It is cool, but a bit much for a car that has this heritage of this one. Really like it. Super low to the ground. It's just a very aggressive and kind of angry look to it. I like what they did with these lights. They kind of integrated them into the grille. There is not a lot of hatchbacks today in 2025 that look this good. Not over the top. We have a lot of those. We have like this one and this one. They all look over the top. This one just looks sophisticated. It's a beautiful car to look at. And it's not trying to prove like it's something special. It is special. That's all they need to write for you to know this is special. And it is, but not over the top. Moving on from that, we come to the side. I mean, let's just take a step back, and some 2 companies that I'm talking about, this one and this one, learn from the masters of the hot hatches. This looks like a normal car, and that's exactly what you want. Not over the top. We don't need to over the top. Love how this looks. It just looks great. Simple, great. We have this line that runs across the entire car, goes all the way here, even wraps into the taillight. It just looks so classy. Because again, let's go back to the basics. All you need to know when you look at the side of this car is, that's all you need to know. That just says it all. At this point in time, every person that has ever driven a car should know what a GTI is. Just look at the back. Again, same thing here. Look at this super sophisticated look. Not over the top. 2 exhaust tips. Now, one of them is slightly angled more up than the other, but beyond that, it just has a super simple look. Because again, you only need to know one thing. That's all you need to know. And look, there's no other badges. They didn't put 2.0, TSI, Turbo. They don't need that. You just need to know it's a GTI. That's all you need to know. And knowing that is more than enough. Let's look in the back. I like this. I've been doing this for a while. So where's the handle? This is the handle. This is actually pretty cool. It is an electronic handle, not a mechanical one. Simplicity is one of the most important things in a car like this. And I know in 2025 we are far from simple cars, but not a power back door. Everything is simple. Look what we have here. Is that a spare tire? And with a subwoofer in the middle of it, it's for good measure. And you have this, which is not some flimsy little thing. I like this. This is, if you're gonna do it right, do it proper. Now the back seats, you can fold them. Now you have all kinds of space. Now you might be wondering, why are we talking about space in a hot hatch? That's exactly the point why you would buy this over a two-door coupe. Because this is functional, two-door coupe is not. That, I like that they remain true to the simplicity of this car for day-to-day operation. Let's take a look inside the 2025 Golf GTI. There are some updates here, and there's one thing I want to say. This is a very driver-focused interior, and I love it. It's not over the top, it's modern, but it's usable at the same time. I really like that. Let's talk about the biggest thing that changed for 2025, which is an indication that Volkswagen is listening to their owners. And I love that and I admire that. They were been all over the touch capacitive stuff, and it's super annoying. In 2025 Golf GTI, they got rid of the steering wheel touch capacitive for physical buttons. Possibly the best move they did here. I mean, this is such a simple steering wheel to operate. It works great. I love it. Physical buttons, they do exactly the same as the touch capacitive stuff. You do still have some touch capacitive stuff, like for the temperature control, for the volume. I can live with that. This is more important. It's a move in the right direction, and I love it. So the infotainment system is new. It's a larger screen. It does work great. I really like it. It's pretty fast. However, occasionally, and by that I mean very occasionally, it will just disconnect from your phone and just, yeah, you have to reconnect. Usually you have to restart the car to do that. Hopefully a software update fixes that, because otherwise the infotainment system is really nice. The screen is just the right size, not over the top, not too small, and I like that. Seats are super heavily bolstered sports seats, but they're comfortable, and I like that. But here's an interesting thing. They're manual seats, except the back. The back is power. Same thing on the passenger seat. Hey, I'll take it. I can live with that. Then we talk about the shifter. You know, I thought the whole point of going with electronic shifters is to free up the space in the center console, so you can put a little button on the side and have all this empty space. Well, this strange little thingy of a shifter, it still takes up the whole space of a normal shifter, so why don't we just have a normal shifter? I have no idea, but here's that. Speaking of the shifter, driving this car, it is such a pleasant experience. It sounds great, it handles great, it accelerates very nicely. The only time or kind of concern I have with this is the clunkiness of this transmission at normal driving. Drive it spiritedly, it's perfect. Drive it normally though, super clunky, and it completely intrudes on the ride quality of that. Otherwise, it is just great. That's the only problem I have with this car. And unfortunately in 2025 we can't say, well, we'll just get the manual. Well, you can't do that anymore. Kind of the problem. Let's take a look at the back seat of the Golf GTI. I'm 5'7", this is my driving position. Don't have a lot of knee room. However, you notice my thigh angle actually sitting completely on the seat. So in this part, it is pretty comfortable. So not a lot of knee room, comfortable, decent headroom. So not gonna take a very, very long trip here as an adult, but it's a very usable back seat. But you do have some cool stuff. You do have a pocket here. You do have another pocket here. I like this. It's actually pretty nice. You do have two USB-Cs in the back, and you can sit 3 folks here. But for a car that is not all-wheel drive, that's a pretty significant hump in the middle. That's all I'm going to say about it. So, the Golf GTI. Folks, the Golf GTI is the very original, or one of the original hot hatchbacks. It is a car that is so special. No matter how it's done, it's still special. And that holds so true in 2025. Because the recipe for this car, since its inception, is very simple. It is a normal family hatchback that you can put your kids in the back, your stuff in the back, drive it everywhere on every day, and then very occasionally take it on the track and it'll put a giant smile on your face. And it is not going to win any speed races, but it's going to be very capable for what it is. That stays true in 2025. But here's what we have in 2025. We have some really good stuff and some stuff that are not so good. Let's talk about them. The very good stuff is, this is still a GTI. Every bit of a GTI as the original, because the recipe is simple. This is a capable hatchback. This is a comfortable hatchback, very functional, and it is not over the top. You look at it, look at all this angry design. Have you seen hot hatchbacks lately in 2025? Yeah, they kind of look like this or look like this. Over the top is the word. They look great. If your inner 9-year-old decides which car you're buying. But this one has a sophisticated look to it. It has a heritage behind it. And even though, and Golf GTI owners or fans, don't chase me down. Even though the competition has caught up in 2025 and we have a lot more serious cars than this, the same price range, but this is a GTI. And if you really want something more capable, there's the Golf R. More expensive, yes, but it's a much more serious car than this. But I feel like this has the perfect blend. It's functional as a daily driver, but it's still very fun. However, the only just small thing, at least in the US, Volkswagen decided in 2025, we no longer have a manual transmission. Kind of a departure from what the GTI once was. And the only transmission you're left with is a 7-speed DSG, which I'm trying to find a nicer way to say it. It's horrendous. No other way to say it. I mean, the main purpose of this car is to do two things. Put a giant smile on your face when you take it on a track, and then be an ultimate daily driver at the same time. Daily driving in this, with this transmission and the traffic, is horrendous. Because that DSG will just kind of, it pains my heart every time you're like in stop-go traffic when it just lurches forward and stops. You're effectively destroying your clutch slowly. That's basically what's happening. Not refined for daily driving at all. It's just too aggressive. Take it on a track or push it, it's perfect. But I thought that was not the full point of this car. I can understand it in a Golf R, but not this. That's the first thing. The second thing is competition has caught up. You can get a similarly priced car, although it just doesn't look as good as this, doesn't have the heritage of this, has better performance. It's all-wheel drive, makes more power. It's even a lot more special than this. However, this is bigger and more comfortable and more usable, but things have changed. In that car, you can get it in a manual transmission. So, the Golf GTI is doing very good in 2025, except that transmission. I mean, I really wish they would put a different transmission here. It would make it so much better. And the whole thing of putting a dual clutch transmission in a car, this is, although you can take it to a track, but I wouldn't call it someone will buy this and only use it for the track. Golf R, yes, not this. This is meant to be driven daily. So putting such an aggressive transmission, in my opinion, is the only downside of this car, because otherwise it's great. That's not the most reliable car in the world, but that's no secret. It's a great enthusiast car. I love it. It manages to put a smile on your face in one way, shape, or form, except when you're stuck in traffic with that transmission. Yeah. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.